So when we talk of the cloud migration, we say it's a process of moving or shifting of the data or the applications, or maybe specifically some business oriented applications in a cloud computing environment. Now, business oriented means some of the application which is exclusively been designed for some business enterprise. For example, it could be a application from the Facebook or from on the Google Cloud platform, or any of the application of the social media platform like Instagram and Snapchat, anything. So it's application which is being designed to meet the requirement of a specific sector, which in this case is the social media sector, or it could be the hospitals, or it could be the hotel industry, or it could be the airlines and aviation industry, because nowadays almost every business enterprise has hosted and shared their data in the cloud environment. So one common model is to transfer the data and the application that uses that particular data from a local on-premise data center to the public cloud platform. For example, when we have hosted our university website, ipu.ac.in, now that is being designed at our local on-premise data center, the UITS, which is on the fourth floor of our D block in the university. So that is our on-premise local data center. So what do? We design the pages there, we upload all the notices there, and for uploading, we connect to the Meghraj cloud of the NIC, which is based at Shastri Park. So we upload all our content, all our applications, all our images, data from the local premise center to the public cloud platform, which is the Meghraj cloud. Now there are two issues that usually arise when you go for migration in the cloud environment. One is an inter-cloud migration and the other is a intra-cloud migration. Now one is inter means when you are migrating or moving a data between the servers of the same single cloud service provider. For example, if you're migrating a data from one server of a Google to another server of the Google, so company vendor remains same, and the same vendor is owning both the servers. Those servers can be co-located. Let's say both can be based in Delhi, or they can be located far apart. Let's say one based in Delhi, another based in Mumbai or in Bangalore. So, but the company vendor is still the same. So the problems of compatibility, security, reliability prunes down a lot, because they are easily compatible to each other in terms of configurations also. But in the intra cloud migration, when you are moving from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider, for example, I want to share or distribute the data between the applications which are running on the software as a service from the IBM cloud server to the Google cloud server, or from the Google cloud server to the Amazon web servers, then I will have multiple problems, because different cloud service providers have got their own issues. They don't trust each other's data, so reliability and security will be a big thing. They may not allow you to connect, they may not allow you to share, they may not allow you to distribute the data among the different cloud service providers. So there are many problems can arise. Also money problem would create economical cost of migrating the data from one cloud service provider servers to another cloud service provider, in the especially in the case of the intra cloud migration. In the inter cloud migration, we won't have that kind of a problem. Now let's take a schematic diagram to understand the issues. We've got a cloud service providers. Now, one is a very well-known cloud service providers, of which simulation tool we have also used, the Cloud Sim. So it's provided by the Manjarasoft. So Manjarasoft is an Australian company that deals into the cloud service provider business. Then we have got a AWS, a very well-known cloud service provider. Then we have got some other cloud service provider like Cloudera, which is very popular. Then you got the Google Cloud Platform, GCP, introduced by the Google, and then it's the IBM. So these are just few of the cloud service providers who are providing their racks, their servers for sharing or the distribution of the data in a cloud computing environment. We can also add NIC, we can also add TCS, who are all into the cloud computing business nowadays. Now, whenever we share the data and the applications that uses that data among these cloud service providers, there will be certain problems. There will be certain problems related to, like, connectivity may or may not happen. The applications may or may not get seamlessly shared between the different cloud service providers. And we can identify these parameters to be called as, let's say, reliability. If you are the AWS and Cloudera is sharing their data So they will always have some trust factor deficit between each other. They may not trust each other data. So reliability is one of the biggest problems when you go from the data sharing among the multiple cloud service providers in a cloud migration computing environment. Another problem could be security. One may not trust the data or the application which is incoming from the another cloud service providers. They may say your data is insecure and we will not be allowed to be shared or distributed. So problem could be related to the security of the data. Then select the app to host. You have to identify which app you want to host on which cloud service provider and is that cloud service provider supporting that particular app, because nowadays we have seen the Android apps almost work across all the smartphones, but when you have designed your app in Flutter specifically for the Apple iOS, then it will only run on the Apple smartphones. So apps also are designed to be run or to be deployed on the specific servers and not to all the computing servers. So the designing of the application, the deployment of the application could be another threat or problem in the cloud migration, because another cloud service provider may not support it, right? Then we can also have the incompatibilities between the different cloud service providers. Now this incompatibility could be in terms of economical cost. It could be in terms of configuration, because every server comes their own configuration, the number of virtual CPUs it will have, the amount of the buffer space it will provide, the amount of the CPU cycles which can be running, the amount of the hard disk space which is available to provide to another server, and the infrastructure cost, like the cost supporting related to the app servers, the web servers, the routers, the bridges, switches, gateways. So there could be so many issues of incompatibilities between the different cloud service provider. One may be very supportive, another cloud service provider may not be that supportive. So there could be a problem in the compatibility and understanding between the different CSPs also. Also, there could be a problem of disaster. It may happen that during the process of migration of the data, that is movement of the data or the transfer of the data in the application from one cloud computing environment to another cloud computing environment being provided by another cloud service provider, the data may get hacked up, or one of the cloud service provider may suffer some disaster, maybe a man-made disaster or a natural disaster. The human calamities might happen. Then there could be, what is a mitigation plan, what is a risk assessment that has been done, and what is a disaster mitigation plan in that kind of situation where data loss might take place during the process of the migration of the data in a cloud environment. So what is a ready-made disaster mitigation plan in such a situation? So that could be another issue that can arise when you go for the cloud migration, when you go for the migration of the data, the application from one cloud service provider to another cloud service provider in a cloud computing environment. So these are some of the issues that commonly crops up, that need to be handled, that need to be solved, especially in the cloud migration environment. Otherwise, no cloud service provider will support the concept of transfer of the data or the migration of the data from one CSP to another CSP. So these are just a few of the factors. There could be many more factors which might occur in a real-time scenario, and the cloud service provider have to be cooperative enough. They need to be work in a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, and not in the spirit of conflicting, because if they conflict each other, then the end customer will suffer. So a big cooperative spirit is required among all these cloud service providers. Now another important concept what we have got in a cloud computing environment, which has actually come from big data tools and technologies, is something called the map reduce framework, which was originally not in the cloud computing environment, but it was already there in the big data tools and technologies. So let's understand about it. MapReduce is a very popular programming framework because nowadays it is being used extensively by many of the IT companies who work with the big data. So it's a very popular programming framework that allows the user to perform both distributed and parallel processing on a large data set, because that is what the aim or the objective of the MapReduce is. You should be able to handle the data sets uh, in a large environment. The size of the data should be very large, very high, and the data should be in a distributed environment. And parallel processing, if possible, should be allowed to happen on the data. So there are various V's of big data you might have heard, like the volume of data, veracity of data, versatility of the data. So this MapReduce framework supports multiple V's of the big data, but the data set has to be very large in size. Otherwise, it will not support. For example, the data set of all the customers who are using Zomato app. Now that will be very huge. And you would have heard that on 31st of December, the Zomato has officially informed or officially disclosed to media that they handled the shipment of worth 91 crores. So that much amount of the that much worth of the item have been delivered by their food delivery people, the agents, to the multiple customers around India. So the data set is very very large. The real time transactions are happening, which can be a further mode of the study when we are dealing with the MapReduce framework, because it only deals with a large data set and where data processing can happen in two environments, the distributed environment and parallel processing should be allowed to happen. So as the name indicates, it contains two major terms, the map and the reduce. So in map phase, a block of data is read and processed to produce the key value pair as an intermediate output. So we are going to read a multiple block of data which will be read and processed, and we'll keep on producing the key value pair combination. Like for example, in Java, we use the hash maps to generate a key value pair combination. So I will just share an example how to do it. So let us see for the sample Java program for the key value pair combination, how we can generate it. Then let me share the code for it. Yeah, it should be visible. Font size is good enough. Let's say, is the code visible? Anyone can say yes or no?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine. So what we are using here for for creating a key value pair combination, we are using this hash map. It's a predefined class available in the java.util package. So we are using a map and the hash map class, right? Now public class name extends, and since we are going for a single thread model, so it's better to make our class extendable from the thread class. Then we define the name of the function, public static void main string and the args. That's how the definition of main function starts in Java. Now this line is important. What we are doing here, we are making a call to the no argument constructor of the hash map class. So since nothing is being passed here, so no parameterized constructor will be invoked. The no argument constructor of the hash map class will be invoked. And if it is successful, it will return as the map class reference variable whose name is called as a map. So this map is the name of a class which has been imported here, and this map is the name of the reference variable, which can be anything. Now what are the type of data it is going to store? This is the key and the value pair. So string and the string. For the sake of simplicity, it has been kept as a string type, but you can have the string in number, you can have float, byte, boolean, depending on the kind of the key and the value pair combination that one is going to generate. Now it's a very simple program. What we are doing, we start putting the key and the value pair in the map. So we say map.put function. So put is the name of the function of the map class, and we say the name, which is the key, and the value is a Amit. So this is the name of a student. Then surname, map.put, first parameter is passed as surname, which is a key, and then the value is a Kumar, that is the value. Then map.put enrollment number, let's say 001. Then map.put program is the mtech. Then map.put email id, let's say abc@gmail.com. Then map.put university name, the GGS IP. So what we are doing here, we are creating a map which is going to store the key and the value pair combination for a particular student whose information is there, like name, surname, enrollment number, program, email ID, and the name of the university. And then finally, we display the content of the map. So what has been provided as input to the program can be displayed. Alternatively, we can also receive this input from the user, because in Java we receive the input from the arg0, right? So we can say string str1 is equal to arg0, string str2 is equal to arg1, string str3 is equal to arg2. So you can receive the runtime argument arg0, arg1, and arg2, and then you can store it, those values, here in map.put. Something like this. If you want to receive a runtime argument, you can keep map.put in the same line, and Instead of hard coding the name, what we have done here, you can pass the parameter as arg0. So in that case, it will receive a runtime argument as input from the end user, right? So we can save the program and then let me run it. So I compile the key value program and then I run the same program, key value, and I can see here I've created using the hash map class. I created a map which is going to have the key and the value pair combination. So enrollment number is a key, 001 is a value, email ID is a key, and this abc@gmail.com becomes a value. So program is a key, mtech becomes a value, university is a key, and ggsi2 becomes a value, name is a key, and the university is a value. Now here the program is very simple. It is not indulging into distributed computing. It is not talking of parallel processing, because the program is working on a single machine. That means a single node of a cluster. But in a real-time environment, I can take the data of hundreds and thousands of customers or the student. For example, I was taking the example of Zomato app. They are having the data set of millions of customers all over India. What are their food habits? How many number of times they place an order within a week? What is the discount or the code coupon being given to them? What is the mode of payment they are using, the credit card or debit card or any of the digital wallets? So much amount of real time data is they are having, which can easily be, so I can go for the parallel processing when I'm dealing with a MapReduce framework for handling a data set of Zomato, or for that matter, like let's say I'm doing parallel processing or in a distributed computing environment for the hospital like Max Hospital. Max Hospital itself in Delhi has around 3 to 4 places like Max Vaishali, Max Patparganj, Max Shalimar Bagh, Max Noida. There could be one or more Max. So the huge customer base, the hospital is having huge patients and very large number of specialists and super specialist doctors. So many number of the surgeries they are doing. So real time data is getting created. How many number of the patients are coming in the OPD. So in that kind of situation, the MapReduce framework play a very important role. Yeah. So how does the strategy work? How does it go? The first is the map job, where the output of the mapper. Mapper is a key and the value pair combination is input to the reducer. So the map reduce, two words are there. So output of the map is being sent as an input to the reducer. That's how it works. And the reducer receives the key value from more than one mapper. So from multiple map jobs, reducer receives. So maybe hundreds and thousands. The receiver will receive the value and starts processing the data which is receiving from the multiple number of the map frameworks. Then the reducer aggregates those intermediate data tuples, that is intermediate key value pairs, into a smaller set of tuples or key value pair, which is the final output. So what will the reducer do? Reducer, the name itself, it's trying to reduce the task, reduce the workload, reduce the time consumed in processing and the sharing of the data in a distributed environment and a parallel processing environment. Because parallel processing again can be in a centralized environment or in a distributed environment. So I can do it in a, let's say in my lab in the university. So there everything is being done in a single centralized location. I can have a task, divide it into a multiple task, run it into a 5 machines. I integrate the output of 5 machines to generate the final output. That's mean I'm doing everything in a centralized environment. But in a distributor, I can have the cluster communication, like one network in Delhi, another network in maybe in Singapore, another network in US, another network in Europe. So I can have the parallel processing of the data in a distributed computing environment where the nodes or the clusters are spread across multiple locations and they're no longer co-located, because in co-location the task of splitting and joining become very easy, because for MapReduce to work successfully you first need to split the task into multiple number of smaller tasks, and then each and every task will execute, that is parallel processing will take place, and then the output of every task will be again merged to create a final output task. So splitting and joining play a very important role. If splitting fails, then there's no point in joining. What you will join? Nothing, because the splitting task itself has failed. So first of all, proper splitting has to be done. and then yes, you can combine the output of each and every task one by one. For example, I can have a task like let's say we took the example of the max. The management of the max would like to know how many number of the, maybe let's say, gynecological operations have taken place in all the max hospital all over India. Yeah, how many number of the orthodontic or prosthetic surgeries have taken place, or how many number of COVID patients have been vaccinated, or by using a one dose or multiple number of dose across all the hospitals, the ventures all over India. So so if they have got 11 hospitals in India, 11 tasks has been created, because every task will now fetch the data from the database of that specific hospital to find out how many number of the patients got vaccinated, let's say in the month of December only, or maybe in the month of November, or maybe in the month of October, or maybe for all the 6 months, for an entire semester, how many number of people got vaccinated, and what was the age group, how many number of people are 18 to 35, how many 35 to 50. So in a single task, I can assign multiple number of the permutation combination, and I need to split the task so that it can run parallelly across multiple number of the databases to find out. We were taking an example of Zomato. For example, Zomato on the 1st January, they released of all the orders placed uh, in the entire year of 2021 by the different customers all over the India, the maximum order was placed for a non-veg item, the chicken biryani. So what did they do? For every state, they have got their database. They searched and find out what was the maximum orders which were placed by the customers and across what age groups, and what was the amount of which item maximum number of orders were placed. So they were able to come out with this figure, and they named the item. Same way, they also came to the conclusion the maximum number of the order placed for the sweet dish was gulab jamun. So they were able to do it very fast because a task was assigned, and since the task was identified properly, good amount of splitting took place. The task was executed parallelly across all the database of Zomato spread all over India, and then final output was obtained for each and every task. Were merged together, joined together to create a final output. That is how typically MapReduce framework works. So you must have a single task with a proper defined meaning and purpose of it. That what is that particular task? Then you need to split that task into one or more than one subtask. Now that subtask could be maybe few, or few hundreds, or maybe few thousands. Now that depends upon the criticality of the task, the urgency of the task. And then all the tasks will execute in parallel, either in a centralized environment or in a distributed environment. And then the output of every task will be merged together to create a single unified output. Let's take a very popular example of what we say the word identification, the word identifier. It's one of the most popular example uh, for the MapReduce framework. Yeah, this is how it works. MapReduce, very big data. Then we'll have the splitting of data. We apply the grep filter. Grep is the globally search for regular expression in printout. Then matches, do the catting, which is a command in Unix, and then all match. So let me take an example here. Yeah. Now this is the overall MapReduce word count process. And if you look at the input here, what is the input here? Input here is a single task, and what is the expected output? That you need to identify how many number of the word count has happened per word basis. So here in the input, the task is deer, beer, river, car, river, deer, car, beer. So a long string is there wherein we are having multiple number of words, and we need to do the counting of these words, how many number of times each word has arisen. So what we do here? We do the splitting here. So here there are three lines. So it has been split into the, we can see here, uh, we have got a splitting framework K1, V1. So deer, beer, river, the first string has gone here. Car, river has come in the second part. Deer, car, beer has come into the third part. So we do a line-wise splitting. So in Java and C, everything where we got a splitters also, or with string delimiters are there. So you can do the searching from one full stop to another full stop, or from one comma to another comma, and then it will help you to identify how many number of the times. So you need to split your entire document into multiple sentences. So let's say if you've got a document with 10 sentences. So first of all, 10 sentences from one full stop to another full stop. You do a searching and then you fetch the words and then you start splicing it. So here we are done splicing, what we call splitting. Then we do the list K2V2 mapping. Now in the mapping, what we can say, we have counted the occurrence of every word. So in the first split, we have got deer, which has been one times, beer, again the occurrence is only word, river, the occurrence is only word. From the second string, again the occurrence of the word car is only one time, occurrence of the word car is only one time, the occurrence of the word river is only one time. Then for the last one, deer, car, beer, occurrence of the word is only one time, occurrence of the word car is one time, occurrence of the word beer is one time, right? Now we can do the shuffling between this kind of the mapping. So if you can look at the shuffling here, which should be visible to you, I think that diagram is good enough to be easily have a look at it. Now the first thing has been directly taken. So what I am doing here, I am doing because I've been given a task to identify the occurrence of each word. So I do the beer counting, car counting, deer counting, and river counting. So in the beer, I can see here, I fetch one value from here, and from the last task, I fetch another value. So beer has been occurred 1, comma 1. Now for the car, I can see here there's no occurrence of the word car here. I go to the second splice. I find occurrence twice. So 1, comma 1, and here the third car. So I look at the 1, comma. Then deer, again 1, comma 1. I can have a deer from here, one first time occurrence, and then second splice is not having it, and then the last occurrence, the 1, comma 1. Same way for the river here, I fetch one count here, and from here the word count. Third task is was not having any count of the river inside it. So now I can go for counting. How many number of times the word beer has arisen? So beer, 2 times it has taken place. Car, 3 times it has occurred. Deer, 2 times it has occurred, and the river again 2 times it has occurred. So after shuffling, I go for reducing. That is called map reducing framework. So in my, you spread out the things. You divide a single task into multiple number of smaller tasks, the subtasks, and then you start the processing part. So this is a map. This is shuffling is same as processing, and then you start reducing. Now you go for the actual. You are moving towards the final output. So in the reducing framework, we do a counting of all the words, and this is we get the final result that in the input task, the string which was given to us had the occurrence of the word beer twice, car 3 times, deer 2 times, and the river again 2 times. So that is how we go for us. It's a very simple example, a very popular example of the map reduce framework. The first and the concept which has arisen, and now this is for the simple program having only 3 strings inside it. But in a real-time scenario, you may be given a larger document, maybe a MS Word document or maybe a PDF file document, and you might need to do a good amount of the word searching in that, or the count of the occurrence of every word. Even programming language nowadays provide the APIs wherein you can do for this counting of the words, the occurrence of each and every word. For example, if you open the MS Word document and you do Control F and the Control H or simple Control F, so it will, if you're searching for a word, let's say software as a service, if you're looking for a word software, you just Control F and software, it will search for the entire document. It will say, let's say 24 searches found, the 24 matches found. So it will, the entire document is being searched for the occurrence of a particular word, and that's how typically the MapReduce framework works successfully. Now on the same lines, there's another example which I want every one of you to try it out at your own end. Nowadays, the cricket match is going on, so almost in India, everyone has a big crash for the cricket. So it's a MapReduce framework example for the typical input string like the bat, the ball, and the pat, because these are the 3 basic. The first string comes with the bat, ball, and the pat. Second string is the bat, the ball, and the wicket. Third is a bat, the ball, and the glove. So what do you do here? You have got 3 string. It's almost on the same example, same lines, which the example we just took, where we were searching for the occurrence of the word like the deer, the river, the car. On the same lines, I would like to find out that what is the number of time the word ball has arisen in the document. How many number of time the word wicket has arisen in the document. How many number of time the word pad has arisen in the document. So I can see here the bat and the ball has, I've kept the string simples. So 3 and 3, and pad, wicket and glove 1 each. So the final output which I should get here should be this only. The bat has occurred 3 times, the ball has occurred 3 times, the pad, wicket and glove has occurred 1 time each. So you can try out this example. It's a very popular example again in the MapReduce framework, and that will also give you a big insight that how the things are being managed and how does the task of reduction, because the map says do the splitting part, reducing says do the joining part. So how does this simple and seamless task of splitting and joining happens, and between the two we have got processing task where we will do the real-time processing which can occur in one phase or two phase. So first of all go for the mapping, that is splitting, then you go for the processing, do the shuffling, and then you go for the reduction so that you can reach to the final output.